Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
That worked out beautifully. God.
Perfect.
Oh my God. Y'all jump scare like it has 20 feet to still walk before it actually pops out, you know? Yeah, really. I'll wait. Just go ahead. Yeah. What's up, y'all? We are the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams.
My name is Chris Adams.
And welcome to the finale of the Loki review. Joining us, as always, Miss Kelsey Kirkland. Hello, dear. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about some Loki, and the season has been fantastic, and it went out with a bang, and I'm so excited to talk about it with y'all.
Oh, we are all eager to talk about this. Oh, good Lord. Anyways, there was a lot to unpack from this episode. What are you doing?
What are you doing? I'm sitting here trying to tweet out that we're live right now, and I completely forgot to do that before we started, and all I hear is Loki.
Well, dang it, Kelsey.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this was a huge episode. Like, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about this. I don't even know where to begin with this. Okay, first of all, spoilers. There's spoilers tonight. We're going to talk about spoilers. If you haven't seen it
or been on social media at all today,
Sylvie dies in this. There's a spoiler. That's your fault. When we said there are spoilers, you should have clicked off, or you should at least have had the common sense not to click on a review and breakdown stream on YouTube. But anyways, no, Sylvie doesn't die in this. Or does she? We don't know. We have no freaking clue what happened to Sylvie, actually. So
much whiplash back and forth. I'm so confused.
Yeah, so major spoiler warning. Not only, I will say this is a spoiler warning for this episode, and maybe some slight spoilers for what's going on in the MCU. Spoilers in so much that if you know the comic books like we do, it's obvious what they're building up, but we're going to touch upon some of this. So I don't want to deep dive too much just because some of it would be nice to be a surprise, but you'll understand as we get to what I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So spoiler warning, those of y'all that are here watching live, let us know you are here. Sound off in the chat. We like to see your smiling faces in the chat that you're watching this. If y'all have any questions, comments, feel free to drop those. We also have streamlabs.com/cinefanatics /tip. Also, was it super chats? You could drop questions that way as well. We will highlight them and answer them for you because that's why you are paying the money and asking the question. So
that's true. Now
that I explained how a super chat works, you can start a YouTube channel as well. Also, patreon.com/cinefanatics. Hop on there. Hop on the tier that's good for you. Tomorrow night, we will be doing a Patreon watch along at the $5 due tier. We are doing a watch along of Space Jam, the original one, right before the second one comes out on Friday. So, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with that. Hop on there. Let's all watch that together.
That's anyway, shooting our Patreon shot there for the watch along.
Yeah. Anyways, recap of this episode. I mean, we ended the last episode with Sylvie and Loki stumbling upon the Citadel after enchanting Eliath. Ha, got it right this time. Yeah, I know. Big yay for me. So they managed to make it into the Citadel, and once they got past Miss Minutes, the guard of all time, they were introduced to a man that is like, what did she refer to him? He who remains, or
he who remains? Yep.
He who remains.
He who roams behind the rose, or something like that. I believe that was Children of the Corn, actually, but whatever. Yeah, he who remains, and so they have a nice long conversation with He Who Remains, who is nothing but just expository information. That's it. And then, of course, we also get a little bit with what's going on back at the TVA with Renslayer and Mobius, who's returned to the TVA. Of course, Renslayer is going off doing something, which we'll probably touch upon here in a little bit. We don't know. And then after all the shenanigans that go on between Loki and Sylvie, Sylvie ends up killing He Who Remains, and Loki winds up back at the TVA where nobody remembers who he is. And the episode ends with Loki will be back in season 2. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it. Good night, y'all.
Real quick, I want to highlight something here in the comments.
Yeah, saw it coming.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, get it in while you can.
I like He Who Remains. I see all of time and all of this coming. Anyways, so what were your favorite parts of this episode? Kelsey, for the last time talking about Loki episodes, what was your favorite standout part of this?
My absolute favorite moment is the fight between him and Sylvie. I mean, the choreography is cool, but like there's so much emotional tension where like you don't know, like, I mean, I immediately sided, of course, with my Loki because, you know, but like you're also kind of like don't know whose side you completely agree with on things because you kind of see both their points and you can see that they both also see each other's points, but they're sticking to their guns. And then my least favorite part of the episode leads into my other favorite part of the episode. I don't like jealousy aside, the kiss thing, but then the look on Loki's face when she says, "But I'm not you," like this, just like this acceptance and hurt and like not betrayal per se, but just like this, like, oh, I see what's happening. That was like one of my favorite Tom acting moments of the show so far. Just that look on his face said so much without him saying anything. So I liked that part a lot.
Yep. Chris, what did you like about it?
For me, and I have a feeling I'm going to steal yours over here, but I don't care. Everything Jonathan Majors in this episode was perfect. Every single inch of what he did was absolutely fantastic. That man chewed up the scenery. He was having a blast playing this character, and only knowing that this is just the beginning for this character just gets me super excited for what's to come, not only in Loki season 2, because you know that's going to be a thing, but also the rest of the MCU in phase 4.
Yeah. I mean, I will agree. I would easily have to say my favorite part of this yes. It wasn't the jump scare, just because jump scares typically don't make me jump and scared. But yeah, I agree. Everything involving Jonathan Majors. We didn't know that he was going to be in this episode. We had a suspicion, or at least I'll call this out. My brother, Chris over here, called it. You were the one who called it before, saying, you know, they started filming this at this time, and he had already been casted. There's a very strong possibility, if you're looking at the timeline of how these movies and shows get filmed, it's very possible they could maybe use him. So
this is where I tell you I have sources. They're from comicbookwebsite.com. Does that sound believable?
Comicbook.com?
Comicbookwebsite.com.
Oh, I say comicbook.com. So your source is Kofi Outlaw.
My source is from comicbookwebsite.com. My source is a man named Jim.
Yeah.
Jim.
Okay. I can't disclose his real name.
It's
actually Ed. Either way. Does it sound reliable? Does it sound like a reliable resource?
Whatever. So the key thing as we're going to break down this episode was really made up of two major scenes. We got Sylvie, Loki with He Who Remains. And then we have everything back at the TVA, whether it's primarily revolved around Renslayer, but then there's also the bit of part of it with B-15 creating her own like tangent as she brings other Minutemen into, at least from what we saw, into 1998?
2018.
2018.
Or was it 2018 Ohio?
You're just off by 20 years. Okay.
Yeah, that happens. The 2018 Ohio, where they see like the original person who ends up having the variant, which is known as Renslayer. So basically, B-15 is now on this crusade to show all the Minutemen and the entire TVA that they're all variants and all set up. So that's your like two major parts of this episode. I think everything with Loki and Sylvie and He Who Remains is probably going to be the big focus of this breakdown and discussion tonight. Let's go ahead real quick and let's touch upon everything else. Like Renslayer, we know Renslayer's out to try to do something or another. She gets confronted by Mobius, who survives the void. At the end of the scene, we see Renslayer. She decides not to prune Mobius and just leaves on her own. What are y'all's thoughts on what Renslayer's doing? And possibly we could get into like some theories. Where is she going? Kelsey, let's start with you.
I don't really know where she's going per se. I do think she's eventually going to meet up with one of the Kang variants or the main one. I think that's what they're setting up. That's who she's looking for. Like, even if she doesn't know that's who she's looking for, it's who she's looking for. But where in time or what timeline or something that he is, I have no idea. I'm interested to find out like where. But I think that's definitely whom she's meeting up with, or eventually at least.
Yeah, I think along the same lines, I agree with that. I mean, we know like from comic books, there is a connection between Renslayer and Kang.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of, how developed is that relationship now? I think what we're seeing is that we're seeing this relationship before it actually even happens. And we'll probably see more of it coming to fruition in season 2. But right now she's looking for answers also. At least that's what we're being told, is that she's looking for answers also. She doesn't know who's in charge of the TVA or who formed all of this. So she wants to go find out. So I think she's going off wherever she needs to go and wherever she's going to end up to meet with Kang. And I think those two will end up having a little bit of a bond. And it'll be interesting to see that flourish.
So you brought up something that I thought of while watching this episode. Is this episode really did give us the idea that Renslayer doesn't actually know who's in charge of the TVA. There was an exchange that she had with, I believe, was with Mobius, where he asked her a question in regards to whoever's the wizard behind the curtain type of thing, and she was like, "Okay, so who is running it then?" Like, she was honestly asking, I have no idea who this person could be. So I agree. We're looking at the beginning of the Renslayer and Kang connection. Mobius, I mean, the thing with Mobius, this is what's going to be hard to do this breakdown, because now we're going to start talking about these multiverses. Like different timelines, different areas. So, I mean, we've got essentially, yeah, I know. Get ready. Here, we're gonna be on a giant mind screw, however you would phrase that.
I don't know if that really works, but okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but it's good. Yeah.
You essentially have two Mobiuses in this episode. You've got the Mobius that was left at the TVA in Renslayer's office when she disappears. And then you've got the Mobius that's at the end who has no idea who Loki is. Yeah. So do we have to ask the question, what happened to the Mobius that's in the office versus what's going to happen with the Mobius that's now confronted with this Loki that he has no idea who Loki is? We've which one do we really care about following up, or is there a possibility of following up with both of them?
I mean, I have one thought on this plot line, and that's wow.
I mean, joking aside, I don't know what else you would say about it, but go ahead, try to.
Yeah, so obviously I think what we're dealing with here is that we're dealing with two different timelines. We were talking about like the timeline's getting split up and all over the place and it's going crazy. We're dealing with two different timelines. Sylvie sent Loki to some alternate timeline at this point. I don't think he got sent back to the one that Mobius and B-15 were watching the timeline breaking up in. So we're now looking at the TVA being locked under multiple timelines itself, which is insane because this organization was supposed to be like above it all. There wasn't supposed to be like, yeah. So the fact that this organization now looks like it's broken up and existing itself in multiple timelines, my head hurts.
I think that's going to be the thing we say for the rest of this phase. Like every movie is going to be like, well, my brain hurts more. Okay, I'm really confused now. I think that's going to be the trend coming up with everything's happening.
And I'm okay with it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm actually when He Who Remains, Kang, we'll explain. When he was talking about the whole like multiverse and explaining basically his origin, I was actually really surprised how well I was able to follow along. And I don't follow along with these long, like hypothetical, scientifically based explanations in movies. I don't follow along very well with that just because attention deficit something or another. I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, moving on. I can't comprehend with that. But this one I thought because I knew who he was, I knew what he was capable of, and I had a very good idea of where this episode was going anyways in regards to that. It made understanding that a little easier. At least in my case. I know that's a your mileage may vary type of situation, but
I will say that it definitely helps knowing the origination of the character, who the character is, and what the character is about from like comic books going into that. Because I know general audiences are going to sit there and not know who he is, not know what's going on, and they're probably going to end up confused or maybe not as happy with this finale as they were with like the rest of the season. And so that is one, I think, shortfall for this episode, is that you sacrifice a little bit of your general audience in order to do something that they'll end up understanding later on down the road. And then, like, I think retroactively, people are going to come back to this series and be like all on board with what's happening with that character.
Yeah,
it's a phrase referred to as repeat business.
No, I agree. I had people like friends that are very casual Marvel fans. They love the movies and shows, but they don't read comics. They didn't watch. They know nothing outside of the MCU. They were confused. They're like when my friends was like, I could tell this is a big deal. I don't know why at all, but I can tell just by the way like the vibe was like clearly this is a big deal. This is an important person, but I don't know who he is. It's like, just you wait.
Well, if everyone watching this breakdown right now, if y'all are anywhere in that same general vicinity, we're about to answer that question for you as to why this is a big deal and why, much like Andrew Thomas here is saying, the season finale of Loki was great. It was phenomenal. It did things I was not expecting for it to do. And even though we kind of had a clue that it could, it went in the place that I was really hoping it would go to, and it did it masterfully. So, that being said, let's move on to basically the main focus of this episode was Loki, Sylvie, and He Who Remains. Let's look real quick. So we mentioned before. Let's go real quick and just get out of the way. Anyways, let's get out of the way this conversation about He Who Remains / Kang. So therefore, like anyone who's watching us who might not know who this character is, you'll at least have an understanding going forward as we continue talking about this, and then you might understand as to why this is very important. Kang, we have talked about before in previous breakdowns of Loki. Yeah, I know. I really need to do. Well, no, not yet. We've talked about him before. I have him ready though. We've talked about him before. It's been a very strong nod. We had heard that the actor Jonathan Majors had been casted as Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Quantumania, whatever. That big word that sounds like it's probably Hispanic, like La Quatromania or something like that. I don't know why. Just thought.
Okay, so for the rest of the stream, guys.
Hey! I'm the knowledge of this here. You need me. we have been talking about Kang and how everything, like in this series particularly, has been leading to Kang, much like WandaVision, where we all knew that Agnes was actually Agatha. We all knew that this was going to be tied into Kang somehow. Kang the Conqueror is he's this megalomaniac type villain. He's very fluent in time travel. Throughout time, he has different personalities. Personas. He's kind of like he's kind of like a shapeshifter as well. So I know was it last week I talked about him being the character of Immortus, who is like a time lord type of thing. That's one of his personalities that he could be. There's a couple of others. Some of these personalities may be a little bit spoilery, depending on how the MCU chooses to use him later on down the line. But I would say, like, right off the bat, we feel like that he was talking about all these different variants of himself. And so, therefore, we may see these different versions of Kang the Conqueror later on throughout the rest of Phase 4.
Yeah, I think what people need to understand is that there's probably going to be a really good Fantastic Four connection here. And again, we're not going to dive into specifics here, but Kang is a big has a big piece to play in Fantastic Four. He's effectively a Thanos level villain. So not only could we be seeing him just mess around with all of Phase 4, but we could see him, if they end up doing kind of with 4, 5, and 6, like they did with the first 3 phases of the MCU, he could be the big Thanos level threat that everyone's got to face down in Avengers, whatever episode number 18 that happens at the end of Phase 6 of the MCU. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. He is somebody who is capable of being around for that long and doing different things in different pockets of time that could cause who knows what kind of havoc throughout all of the MCU, all of the many, many timelines that we're seeing now. It's insane.
Kelsey, your thoughts on what we have learned of Kang so far? They didn't actually refer to him as Kang.
Yeah.
No.
But your thoughts on him so far?
I am super surprised that they actually, like, we talked about this. We're like, okay, they're clearly leading up to this. But, like, when he finally popped up on screen, I'm like, oh, crap, they did it. Like, I didn't think they really were going to go into. So I was super surprised to see him show up. I think the way they introduced him into the MCU is clever. Like, it's like kind of like sneaking him through the back door. Like, okay, like, here's this character. May not seem like a big deal now, but just you wait. And him telling the story, like, for people who are in the know, they're like, you're just picturing all these versions of him showing up in different movies and shows and just being this big, horrible threat. But yet it's also super interesting and surprising people who don't know who he is. Like, okay, there's this guy. There's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of this guy running around. Like, I guess we're supposed to be worried. So I'm super excited. I think he's going to randomly be showing up in the next few phases, like you said, and end up being the big bad. I think maybe not every single MCU movie in the next few years.
No, this was one there.
Yeah, I think we're going to see him show up in random movies, and he'll be the villain. One version of him will be the villain of that movie, and then the person will defeat him. And then next thing you know, a couple movies later, here he is again in a different form. That whoever that person is defeats him, and it's just going to be that building over the next couple phases, and who knows what's in store. It could be even bigger than Infinity War. We don't know. I'm excited. I think it's going to be so cool.
That's honestly exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, you're going to see a lot of movies coming up in Marvel's queue that are going to end up having Kang being the whatever villain of that movie. Like they might have like announced what the villain name is for this movie or that movie, but secretly it's going to be someone who either is Kang or someone who is working with or for Kang. And I think that's going to be super interesting. I mean, especially because like have they announced who the villain is for Multiverse of Madness yet for Doctor Strange?
So the last that we heard that at one point it was going to be Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So Nightmare was one, and then after WandaVision, everyone thought all of a sudden that like it might actually be Scarlet Witch is going to be the villain, and she just lost within this multiverse as well. And so
I'm still not on that theory. I don't think that's true at all.
I think she's gonna. I don't think she's gonna be quite as. She's not gonna be the main villain, but she's probably not necessarily going to be good as far as a she doesn't know what she's doing type of situation. Kind of like like in WandaVision, she didn't know exactly what she was doing to the people of that poor town. But like she might be something like that still in Multiverse of Madness. So.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that there's room for a Kang person, whether Nightmare is working with Kang, which typically Nightmare is more so related to Mephisto.
Mephisto is in there somewhere. I knew it.
In there.
I freaking knew Mephisto. Yeah,
hopefully played by Mark Hamill. So I believe that that actually would probably be pretty good. But the point is that I think Nightmare could either be working with Kang, or they just threw Nightmare onto a wall right now just to give us a name, because it's not like they haven't lied about who's appearing where and whatnot before Jonathan Majors lying about not being in this show.
Yeah, the thing is like we have a really good idea of where this Multiverse of Madness movie is going to go. We know Wanda is capable of understanding a multiverse. We know Doctor Strange is. Because of this show, there's a very strong rumor that Loki might be a part of that as well. There's nothing confirmed from the Marvel camp yet, but who knows? So we know that there's a lot of people, a lot of things like chess pieces being moved into position for Multiverse of Madness. I, as someone who like knows like these comic book characters, where they come from and where they're rooted on, I don't understand how Nightmare is going to come into play. I don't believe Nightmare is the villain. Now, the other thing that when you asked who was the villain, we forgot to mention Baron Mordo. Mordo is going to be a villain because he is a villain. So. But I have a feeling he's kind of like he's doing his own thing, trying to take out like all the wizards and sorcerers and whatnot, while this whole multiverse thing is happening over here. He's trying to do his work while this whole other plot line is going on. That's what I believe the movie's going to do.
It's gonna be interesting because there's definitely a world where Kang still fits in that one too, and I almost would expect it at this point.
I will call it right now. Remember how everyone basically refers to Captain America Civil War as Avengers like 2.5? Just because really it involved all of them. It was a lot more Tony, or as much Tony as it was Steve. Yeah. That's what Multiverse of Madness is going to be. It's going to be another one of those like Avengers. What are we at? Like 4.5 at this point now? Ish. Yeah, 4.5. It's going to be an Avengers level type of idea of scope, but it's not going to involve all of them.
Right.
Whew. Anyways, guys, again, we're going to get super nerdy with this. I feel like we've already started like hitting that super nerd level of this.
Brandon also hits it right on the head here. They don't refer to him as Kang because he doesn't go by that name here. The same way Sylvie doesn't go by Loki. She's a different person, even though she's a variant of the same person.
Which, I mean, watching this episode, that's what I was realizing. I thought they were just being coy with his name in regards to we're not going to say Kang, but that's who he is. But no, this guy that we got introduced, this particular person is not Kang. This particular person is referred to as He Who Remains.
And she still calling me that?
Which is a separate comic book character. He Who Remains is a character that's not Kang.
Yeah.
So, but nice little reworking of that character. But
But in the MCU, this character is Kang.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. As Rachel said, they left us non-common folks hanging without even a name. That was done on purpose.
Yeah.
This was you see this face, you see this personality, it's going to be back.
Yep.
So,
but also the name that you get with this episode is He Who Remains. So,
real quick again, as we're talking about him again, the intro to him is we saw this elevator open. He's sitting there. I know my immediate reaction. So I knew Jonathan Majors was playing Kang. This elevator opens, and I know my original reaction was like, yes, hell yeah.
He did it.
They got him in this. And then I was like, my brother was right, and I have to admit this on camera.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was.
Here's the fun thing about this, guys. A little behind the scenes. I watched this last night. I couldn't wait to watch it today. I watched it last night as soon as it hit Disney Plus. I was literally refreshing, waiting for the episode to pop up. Second I saw it, clicked on it.
Yeah.
That's like 2 something in the morning here.
I didn't get to watch it till 2 something in the afternoon.
He's already asleep. He's got to
yeah.
go to work. So I'm sitting there. Second elevator opens. He's sitting there. I'm going, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's do it.
And I didn't hear a single bit of that.
All of our neighbors are hating me.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
It's worth it. You do what you gotta do.
They should be watching Loki. Come on.
Kelsey, your thoughts on Kang, whether it's the reveal, like I know we went like a whole bit just like explaining him real quick, but your thoughts on him, his intro, anything about him in this episode, really.
Well, I loved the reveal. I was very similar. I stayed up. I've done it every single week, but like I stayed up till because I couldn't wait ever. And so it's middle of the night. I'm sitting there, kids are asleep, and it opens. And I did verbally say very loud, like, I can't believe they did it. I may have said swear words. But just like the way he looks when he's sitting there too is very ominous. Because he looks like a guy, but yet I don't know. He's so intimidating. Like I'm super excited to see him play this character because I think he's gonna have so much fun with it. Because he got to play this version of the character. Yeah. He's stabbing. So now he's going to be he's pretty much going to get to play like 10 parts, how many parts. As an actor, I can't imagine how fun it would be to be cast into a role like that.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be so much fun. And he is so talented. He's going to kill it every single time. And so I think this is a cool way to introduce him. I think he's going to do a great job, and I can't wait to watch the episode again because I've only watched it twice, and I definitely need to watch a few more times just to like pick out like everything he says. Because I have to admit, the first time I watch stuff like that, my focus always goes to Loki a little bit, but like I want to like focus and be like pay attention to every move you make because I want to understand you as a character more. So.
I'll go back to when they they made the announcement that he was gonna be playing Kang in Quantumania. Mm-hmm. And I was like, he's playing Kang? I'm not familiar with him. I think at that point, I don't know if Lovecraft Country was out. That's not going to be a show I'm going to watch anyway.
Yeah, it was.
That doesn't hit my non-horror fan sensibilities.
What, a TV show about H.P. Lovecraft areas? Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm good. So I wasn't really familiar with
Cthulhu.
I wasn't really familiar with Jonathan Majors, so I had nothing to go off of whether or not he would have been a good choice for this role. The second he starts talking this episode, I was like, yep. Again, I don't know why I question Marvel. They know what they're doing every time. Every time. Every single person they cast. Every time.
So I watched it this afternoon. I sent my brother a text message like, dude, I'm getting like strong like Heath Ledger as Joker vibes off of even in that reveal, that picture. This tell me this doesn't kind of remind you of like Joker sitting in that jail cell in Dark Knight.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there. He has like full control and power. He's just posted up. Yeah. He knows what he's doing. He's in control of everything. So he's got that swagger about him. And I love that about Jonathan Majors in that shot. That again, that elevator open. Now I'm at work. On my lunch break, I'm in this like room that they refer to as a quiet room. Like only 5 people are allowed in that room. Some people actually do go in there on their lunch break and take a nap, which is like smart for people. But like I go in there, I pop in the earbuds, I'm watching this on my laptop, and that happens. And again, I'm in a quiet room sitting there like, like I can't do anything. I can't react. But there was a coworker of mine off to the side that he had watched it last night because apparently his timetable is a lot more fluid than mine is. But I don't know. I think he gets up like first thing in the morning and watches it before going to work. I'm like, I'm trying to sleep as much as possible. But he had already seen it and he knew I was watching it on lunch, and he's just kind of like looking over me like, I know where you're at. So
I've seen that look before this morning.
It was my face this morning when I was watching this. So yeah, I love everything about this. I mean, we honestly could keep this stream going for like 3 hours at least, just talking about the possibilities with Kang. And if we wanted to be a little more spoilery, we could bring up like all of his other personalities and characters and stuff. There's going to be a couple more we will bring up here in a little bit, but I think we've pretty much like nailed down just what we need to talk about Kang for everyone who's watching to understand what we continue to talk about throughout the rest of this breakdown. Chris, anything else that you wanted to bring up as far as like the entire Loki, Sylvie, Kang scenes?
I mean, we can go into like just real quick what I have on our show details here in terms of like Loki and Sylvie stuff, because I mean the conversation with Kang leads into a lot of stuff, and I know Kelsey's probably gonna have a whole lot to say on this too, so I want to hear all her thoughts as well.
Does anyone need the nerd glasses? Kelsey, nerd glasses?
I got some. I'm good.
Okay, cool.
I'll start off by saying this, and I'll kind of just, I feel like I could just say one thing and just let Kelsey go for it. The character development on Loki in these 6 episodes, less than 6 hours of Loki entertainment here, has been some of the best character development we've seen with a character, I think, throughout all the MCU. Now, I know we're also dealing with, you know, a character we've seen in like multiple mini movies before this, so we've gotten used to how his character is and whatnot before then. So, but going from that to what he says and does in this episode in the final moments here, I think is some of the best character development we've seen with any character in the entire MCU in total. Kelsey?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I always feel super biased talking about Loki because he is my favorite, but
you should.
But like what this show has done, what the writers and the director and Tom being a producer on it, everything like that has done is you could tell it's a group of people who love this character as much, if not more, than all the rest of us do, and they want him to be in a good place where he will get to have great stories in the future in the MCU. And I feel like in this series, they did that exactly that. They had to start pretty much from scratch again. Like they built this beautiful arc for him where he passed away in Infinity War, and that could have been it. And that could have been fine because it was a great story arc for him. It was a great end to what happened to him. But, you know, we're all selfish and we don't want to lose our Loki. So we got him back. So they had to like pretty much start all over again. And they somehow, how they did it, gave him another beautiful story arc where he has so much growth and has changed as a person and is learning and is kind of like reevaluating how he sees things. And it's just a different version than the one we had before, but yet it's still just, if not more so, valid than the other version. It's like, it's mind-boggling to me how well they wrote his character in this. Like, just it's a beautiful story. And it can keep going. I'm so excited to see where it goes. But like, just applause to the writing team and stuff like that, because it's just it is. I agree, like one of the best character developments that's happened in the whole entire franchise.
I will say, you know, thoughts on the relationship status between Sylvie and Loki aside, the fact that there's a character that exists within the MCU, within Loki's world, that he has found a way to how do I wear this? Found a way to put more important than himself. He's thinking selflessly. He's thinking about this person over himself, which is very different for Loki. Despite the fact that she's technically still a Loki, she's not him. She is a separate person from him. Yeah. So the fact that there is somebody else that he is choosing to put their needs and their wants and desires and everything, their goals ahead of his own, is a huge deal for Loki. That's what I love, because like he had the line where, you know, he was being offered a throne essentially, and you know, you had that bit with Miss Minutes at the beginning, say we can give you anything we want to give you here.
It startled me really bad that time.
Got him.
Like, yes.
Where she's saying that we'll give you, you know, whatever you want. You want to win in, you know, 2012 in the Battle of New York. You want to beat Thanos. You want the Infinity Gauntlet. You can rule Asgard. We'll give you anything you want. And by the end of this episode, by the end of this episode, he's looking at Sylvie and going, I don't want any of that. I just want to make sure you got what you need, that you're good, that you're happy. And like, I think that is a huge deal for most people, but specifically for Loki.
Yeah. So I want to piggyback off of kind of like what Kelsey was talking about in terms of Loki. As far as the writing, I love how this series has gone from, it was like really focused on Loki, or at least this variant Loki's personality, how he still has to learn to be a better Loki, kind of like the other Loki in the main MCU timeline has learned. This Loki had to learn it real quick, real fast, within like basically a span of an episode, and then kind of like turn that leaf. The question, though, walking away from this, in this one particular instance, yes, he seemingly has learned the lesson to be a better person, to how to win. But has he overall? I mean, that's fine for this one-time occurrence, but I mean, I could be a good boy for like 5 minutes as well, and then the rest of my life be a complete douche. I mean, for example.
Well, I can kind of see. Okay, so one thing I want to kind of bring up is, so like everything happens, she kicks him out of, and he's just sitting there at the TVA, like kind of in shock because he knows what's happening. He knows she's succeeding because, you know, he has full and complete faith in her, and he's like, well, she killed him because I know she can. So like that moment of him sitting there realizing that what's happening, and his like kind of like fear that like, oh, what's gonna happen to our world, what's gonna happen to the universe, what's gonna happen to the timelines, like there was like this look in Tom's face is so good at doing very subtle changes that like say so much without saying anything, but it was like partially kind of looked like anger a little bit. So like I could see him being kind of mad at her too for like, okay, you just messed everything up for everybody. And now look where we're at. Like I'm in a timeline. I don't know where I am. Nobody knows who I am anymore. So I could see him and her not being good if they come across each other again. Like him being a little not too happy with her. So
yeah, and at the same time, like what I love about this is that it's the juxtaposition of the two of them against each other. You're looking at Sylvie, who, you know, obviously we were introduced to her. We were thinking, oh, she's a villain type. And then we were introduced to what her plan was and what she was trying to do. And then we got her like backstory as a little girl who was essentially abducted by the TVA from Asgard. And, you know, we saw her heart to essentially be a hero from that moment. And what I like about this is that you kind of get the flip-flop exchange here, where Loki started off pretty much solely as a villain to now he's got heroic motives. Now you've got Sylvie, who actually started out her life with heroic motives, now focused solely on herself and trying to overcome what happened to her by taking out Kang. Or He Who Remains. That's the only thing she sees right now, is this will solve all my problems if I kill him, not the ramifications of what could happen when she does that. So she's focused solely on what her glorious purpose was. And I love that. I love that flip-flop juxtaposition between those two characters.
Yeah, like in the chat, that's what I kind of predicted last week because like his motives were changing. He was becoming more like caring, and Sylvie was always from the get go very set on her purpose. Like she's like, okay, I'll work with you. I like you. You're great, but I'm going to focus on what I'm doing. Hey, this is great. I'm having a moment, but I'm going to focus on what I'm doing. So it did not surprise me at all that she stuck to her guns and just kind of blew them off because I kind of assumed she would because she's still glorious purpose Loki. That's still where she is in her headspace. So I was proud of myself for calling that a little bit.
And at the same time, I won't say that she's completely turned her back on him. She just got him out of the way for now.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting in that in this story, she sent Loki back to the TVA and she killed Kang, which is weird because he had proven before that he's able to jump around, that he's capable of not being killed, like to just easily dodge a simple strike from the sword. So he allowed himself to be killed by her. Why did he allow himself to do that? And what is she doing now?
Well, so you remember there came a part in the episode in their conversation where they reached the end of all time. And beyond that, he had no idea what was going to happen next. He had predicted everything. That's what he said. I told a fib. I only had predicted so much. Once we passed that threshold of the end of all time, I don't know what's coming next. So where he's jumping around and being able to dodge, he knew all those moves that were coming. So he was able to get ahead of them. At that point, he no longer knew, and he was just like, what's going to happen is going to happen. Yep. I gave them a warning. Yeah.
Like he said, too, he's like, here's my choices. I will let you guys take over. I'll retire. Like I'm done. My life work's going to go on. I'll be fine. Or you kill me and I will come across you guys later. I'll be like reincarnated. So like to him, it didn't matter. Like no matter what, he's fine. And so he didn't really care.
Yeah.
He gave him a choice.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack from this episode. The other thing I want to look through real quick is some of like the Easter eggs that we got with this episode. Some of these we don't need to necessarily dive into. It's more of what were your thoughts on it? Let's start right off at the beginning. The Marvel Studios logo was filled with like quotes from all over the MCU, and I love.
Like reality.
Not only it started with the MCU, but then it moved into like you definitely heard like Neil Armstrong's one giant leap for mankind. There was like Greta Thunberg was in there with her pleas of please pay attention to the environment. Like there was real world quotes in there. Phenomenal. Like that was the all-encompassing. How do you describe or show time without actually showing time? You play the clips from all of it.
From time.
So I love that. Do y'all have any thoughts on that? Or
what I think and what I love most about this is that this is kind of an example of the whole multiverse thing, dealing with also where we, the viewing audience, are now also wrapped up in part of this, because this is essentially breaking the fourth wall. You're getting the quotes from all those characters while you're seeing those characters pop up in the logo itself. And so there's a consistency to what you're seeing in the logo and what we're hearing actually have happened in that universe. And that wraps us, the viewing audience, into it. I just think it was a fantastic, phenomenal. My mind is blown with that opening.
Yeah. And not only the sounds though, but like, okay, so the logo goes away and then you just see like the space and you see the different universes like that, like the visually.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Like it actually it paused on a visual representation of what you are about to take in.
Yep.
It's weird because having that without like the actual expositing from a character is not something I feel like you see too often, at least on that magnitude. That was a very long piece of this episode with no dialogue. You just saw camera moving through this like axis of time type of the Citadel there. I say axis of time, that's a direct connection to that X-Men cartoon that I mentioned last week. But that brings me back to what my thoughts on this is. We've seen multiverse time manipulation before. We've seen it in the X-Men cartoon, like I mentioned. The finale of the 90s Spider-Man did this whole multiverse where Spider-Man were plucked from other dimensions. And there was one dimension where Spider-Man was a cartoon character, a comic book character. And it broke the fourth wall where like that Spider-Man brought the real Spider-Man from oh God, this is so nerdy. Brought him, met Stan Lee, yada, yada, yada. And like, he was a fictional character. So it's breaking that fourth wall as well. So yeah, same kind of idea that like basically putting us, the viewing audience, into the MCU. Yeah. We are just another one of the multiverses that they're going to be talking about in the future movies. We're just the multiverse that thinks of all of this as fiction, and we're watching it.
And real quick, you brought up Spider-Man. I will say this: we should probably keep our eyes peeled because I know it's been said all over social media. We're probably going to get that Spider-Man No Way Home trailer now pretty soon, because they might have been sitting on it and waiting for the multiverse to explode and everything before we actually got what was a Spider-Man movie that's most assuredly going to deal with multiverse stuff.
Yeah. As Gordon's saying, the Spider Wars, that was the Spider-Man cartoon that dealt with that. The other thing I liked was a nice little Easter egg is when we meet He Who Remains, he's kind of holding it. He's eating an apple.
Yeah.
Do you remember the last time we heard about an explanation about time where an apple was involved? Doctor Strange, where he was trying. Yeah, he was doing that where he was making it rotten and then like putting it back together. It seems like it's not possible to talk about how time works without an apple of some sort being involved. So
good to know.
I do also like, this might be just a slight nod, but that whole situation between Mobius and Renslayer, with the pruning rod stick that she has, he goes to try to attack her. He ends up on his back and she ends up with the pruning rod. And there's a shot where it's like the point of view of Mobius laying on the ground looking up at her. This is very reminiscent of Avengers, where Loki is on the ground looking up at the Avengers at the end, where he's like, yeah, I think I'll have that drink now if y'all don't mind. So nice little callback. There's been a couple of times throughout this entire series that there's been shots that call back to other MCU, especially like Loki falling down and
the hair flip.
Yeah, and the hair flip. That's been the big main one.
They know what we like.
Yeah. Other than like the talk about like Loki, or not Loki, about Kang and all of his like past variants, that's all been a fantastic like Easter egg for all the other stuff in the MCU. The other things that it seems like there's a call out is like we get the end of the episode. Loki winds up in some variation of the TVA that he's not used to. Again, Mobius has no idea who he is. And then the camera pans over to essentially the final shot of the episode of the statue where what used to be was the Time Lords or the Timekeepers. Now it's one singular statue of He Who Remains that's in the same costume as Kang the Conqueror. So, I mean, take a look at that collar and everything.
Yep.
If you want to make a comparison here. Yeah. I mean, it's the proper Kang the Conqueror costume, which is great. So that was a nice little nod, Easter egg.
Wait, let me look at that one more time. So yeah, so I like the visual differences between the two. I think they did a really good job adapting it, and
gosh darn it.
I knew it was freaking coming. I knew it was coming.
Oh my
I knew that was coming so much that if you didn't click on it, I was going to. Yeah. Can we talk about that? So we didn't actually properly talk about Miss Minutes in here. That little clock minx has been a thorn throughout this entire series, that she knew what was going on. If you think back to like all the times they, hey, Miss Minutes, can you pull the file about the beginning of time? She's like,
sure.
Okay. Maybe. Sure. Like she's been apprehensive about revealing the entire truth to anyone who asked. So
here's the thing. She's honestly like one of the characters. Like, yeah, we'll probably get a lot of these characters back in the second season. If Miss Menace isn't back in the second season, I'm going to be upset. I will be.
Yeah.
First of all, because we don't deserve Tara Strong. My God, she's such a talented voice actress. Holy crap. But two, the character itself, just being an animated character in a live action world, I've talked about it before. Like there's just something so fun and unique about that, and I'm excited to see more from that. So, yeah.
So that's all I got from Easter eggs. Was there anything else that y'all saw like Easter egg-ish that kind of stuck out? I don't feel like there was really that many from this episode.
No, there wasn't a whole lot Easter egg wise. It was really a lot of like more so about what can you theorize about what's going to happen going forward, because there's just so much that can happen going forward. Like the whole Kang being there and then the whole multiverse opening up just opens up literally a multiverse of possibilities. I am so lame. So that's what I'm excited about. I think because you got this whole event. Holy crap. First of all, does anybody else think that the tower of the Citadel here looks like one of those pruning rods? Because I think it does a little bit. I don't know if that's relevant to anything, but it did to me. I'm looking at this like crazy web of nonsense, and we saw it like start off with like the singular strand, and then it just kind of grew from there. Mm-hmm. This is insane. I like that they explained that in they explained that in Endgame with Hulk, Bruce Banner talking to the Ancient One, and she made that diagram that was very simplistic. It's amazing how that diagram has now played into this, and they knew that they were going to start diving into something like this, and they needed to start with a very simple diagram. So therefore, when we get to this point where stupid timeline is all over the frickin' place, that people would be able to understand what that visually represents.
Yep, absolutely.
And there's two pieces to this I actually really wanted to bring up, because these are the two things that just hit me, that I was like, this is a possibility now. This is how they're going to do certain things. One being, we've been thinking and theorizing, how are they going to bring the X-Men into this universe? Because it doesn't necessarily make sense that mutants have just existed this entire time and we haven't heard about them over 10 years into this universe, into the MCU. Mm-hmm. This is how that happens. This is how you get mutants in, because now there's multiple timelines and whatnot where, to not like dive too deeply into like Kang's character, but he can be he's part of the storyline for Apocalypse, and Apocalypse being one of the oldest mutants that we know.
Well, I mean, we could actually explain it real quick. I mean, y'all remember that Apocalypse movie that was trash? Yeah. When Apocalypse was a baby.
Learning.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. When Apocalypse was a baby, he was found by a pharaoh in Egypt. That pharaoh was Rama-Tut, which is one of these personalities of Kang the Conqueror. So, yeah, that's how we start bringing the X-Men. If y'all are seeing Twitter and people talking about like, oh, the X-Men can now come in, that's how the X-Men are going to come into the MCU. Calling it right now. I'm not even calling it. I know that that's how they're going to do it at this point.
He's got a source at comic book. He's got a source from comicbookwebsite.com. His name is what did I say earlier, Jim? Yeah,
Jim.
Whatever.
Jim.
Good old Jim.
Could be a Bill. I can't remember.
It's all the same. So that excites me because I think now we have like pretty hard concrete. How are we going to get the X-Men into the MCU? Now we don't actually know the specifics of how that's going to happen, but we have a pretty good diagram here. And it's kind of all over the place.
So far, Kevin Feige has been very like on the nose with how they brought stuff in. I mean, we knew Agnes was going to be Agatha Harkness. We knew, like, even in this, doing this breakdown for the past 6 weeks, we all knew that Kang was involved somehow. Sure enough, Kang is involved in this. So, I mean, at this point, I feel like what the obvious answer, the most simple answer is the real answer, and that's what we're going to get. This is how the X-Men are going to be brought into the MCU. I like it. I think it's a very genius way to handle that whole, like, Fox Disney merger.
Yeah.
I approve. Especially because of the Deadpool Korg reaction video we got a couple of days ago. That's chef's kiss. That was brilliant.
Yeah. So that's one thing I want to bring up. The other one I wanted to bring up also was we have a show coming up that we decided not to do a breakdown of, but maybe we should have been deciding to do a breakdown of this now. That show is called What If, which now to me is seeming like an improper title for the show because I don't think we're dealing with what ifs. I think we're going to be dealing with these things are actually happening in different timelines. These aren't possibilities of things that could have happened. These things actually are happening in alternate time. Like What If is a sequel essentially to Loki is what I'm getting at. And that raises the stakes and makes that show a lot more intriguing sounding. I was already going to watch it anyway, but now I'm like, whoa, okay, hold on. There could be some really cool stuff happening here.
I'm trying to remember because I could have sworn, I can't pull one off the top of my head right now. I could have sworn there was like some stories in the What If comics that did the same thing. Just what if this happened and this happened and this happened, like variations of what we know as the common Marvel universe. There's been stories or things or characters that were created within the What If comics that have made their way over to the modern Marvel comics universe. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible that could happen with this. And that what's interesting with that, though, is What If is completely animated. Mm-hmm. So when they turn around, like we saw from the trailer that they were doing a What If T'Challa was Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if he was Star-Lord? Okay. This was a bad example. What if such and such happens in this TV show, and then later on in the MCU, we find that scenario that this episode pulled. Yeah, now you get why that was a bad example. Whoops. What is shown in this What If episode, this What If cartoon, is actually pulled into the real MCU because of this multiverse nature that the MCU is sitting at now.
I think you see that like in a passing scene or two in various movies. I don't think you see anything like consequential come from that's going to like really affect movies. I think it's just going to be like one more like, this is a really cool thing. If you're paying attention to like the TV shows too, you're going to get rewarded for it.
Yep.
They're already doing that. I mean, if y'all saw Black Widow, I'm not going to give Black Widow spoilers at all. But there is at least one thing that happens in Black Widow that if you're not a Disney Plus subscriber, you're not going to get the full payoff as to what was meant in that. And that is genius. I love the fact that Disney Plus, that Marvel is on this. You know what? We are this high movie making power. You do what we say type of mentality. Like you're going to watch us, you subscribe to Disney Plus. That's how you watch us. Yeah. Kelsey,
genius marketing.
Kelsey, you looked really excited for What If. What you got any thoughts about that?
Well, I was already excited for What If. My favorite comic book stories, not just Marvel, like DC stuff too. I love like Elseworld What If type stories. Like Red Sun is like one of my favorite like Superman stories. I think it's just interesting like take on things. I love isolated stories that, don't make any difference in the grand scheme of things, but are interesting. It's like, okay, that's a cool take on that. So as soon as they announced What If, without any details, just the name What If, I knew what it was going to be. And I'm like, I am so excited for the show. And then just the closer we get to it and the more stuff that's happening with Disney Plus in general and the MCU in general, What If might rank up there with WandaVision and Loki for me in importance and excitement, because it looks so good. That trailer looks great. The animation style is awesome. The voice acting, of course, with all these great actors doing their parts and other actors kind of filling in for certain actors that couldn't do their parts, things like that. It just looks so good. I'm so excited.
To bring up kind of what my brother just said there earlier about kind of like things also playing into the movies as well. I really like, even with Loki, with all three of these, we've had WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Loki. And I'm sure they're going to do it with What If and all these other future TV shows coming out. They have done them in such a way, and I'm speaking on this from the vantage point of having not yet seen, obviously, what's coming next in the MCU, like having not seen Spider-Man or Doctor Strange or any of that. They've been doing these shows in such a way where, yes, you can keep just watching the movies and you're probably going to be fine. I mean, if you go back and you watch, from Avengers Endgame to the next Captain America movie that's going to happen, the natural progression is you saw Sam get handed the shield. Cool. Sam's Captain America now. Dope. But you miss kind of like the character development with Sam that you would get if you actually watched the show.
Him coming to terms with what does that shield mean?
What
is
exactly?
Yeah. Which is huge.
With WandaVision, that she was already hurting in Endgame from, what Thanos did to Vision and all that. And that she's probably going to have gone down a dark path in her head, especially like one of her last lines in Endgame was, they're both, while she's talking to Hawkeye, they're both Vision and Black Widow are aware of what happened and all that. That she's already going down a kind of a dark, sinister path, so to speak, to try to fix what went wrong in her life. And so that's going to lead you into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, perfectly caught up. You don't necessarily have to watch WandaVision, but if you go back and you watch WandaVision, you get a little bit of added stuff, and that might even be able to help you piece together why Vision's even around still.
You get a better shot of where her psyche is if you watch WandaVision. Yeah. With
this show, it's interesting because if we go from, let's say Loki does pop up in Multiverse of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting because the last time, if you just watched the movies that you saw Loki, he was exiting 2012 in Endgame. So if you take it that you could just go based off the story, he left there and he ends up wherever he ends up in, say, Multiverse of Madness. And maybe that's all you need to watch because they can just quickly run through I just went on so many adventures. I know of this person who's doing these crazy things across the wide multiverse. I'm aware of the multiverse based on what I saw between my time when I left with the Tesseract. Then you don't necessarily need to watch the Loki show. But what I think is, again, you are rewarded if you have that Disney Plus subscription. You're rewarded by going back. Okay, especially since this is getting a season 2 now, you're rewarded to know what happened with Loki's character and the origins, the origination of who Kang is. I love what they're doing because someone like our mom doesn't have a Disney Plus subscription, probably never going to watch these shows. But she's still going to continue watching the movies. So she needs to still be rewarded as a moviegoer that she's able to still follow along with whatever storylines are going on in the movies. Then you have us.
Well, I would say it would make sense for someone that's of that mind frame that would understand that Loki would pop up, say, like in Multiverse of Madness, and he just naturally has, because he's a master manipulator, god of mischief, he would just have a natural idea about the workings of time anyways. That's not so far-fetched to think that his character isn't capable of knowing those things right off the bat anyways.
One thing this reminds me of, thinking back, is Solo with Darth Maul showing up, where unless you were in on it, you were very confused. But I think that brought a lot of people back to like, you know, watching Rebels and Clone Wars and things like that because I wanted to understand how he was still there. So I think eventually, at least for some people who had no plans on watching the shows, the movies will make them want to go watch the shows. They want to be in on it. You know what I mean?
Twist their arm.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
I never watched those shows. I knew Darth Maul is in those shows because I'm a geek. I know that Marth Dahl survived.
Why did you say that name?
Yeah, Marth Dahl. Yeah, Martha survived that fall and that split in two. I knew that as a geek. Now, if I'm objectively looking at it as someone who had not watched, was it Clone Wars or Rebels, whatever he pops up in, if I had only watched Phantom Menace and now watching Solo and I see him pop up, yeah, that would have been like a cool shock and surprise, but also like, oh, he's only in half. We only see like his top half because his other half is kind of, yeah, a person could theoretically survive if they were split in half like that in Star Wars land or whatever it is. But
so that's what I
makes
really love
sense
about what they're doing. They're doing some really cool stuff where they're able to cater to both audiences, but you get super rewarded if you actually pay the $7 a month subscription or however much you pay annually per year in order to have Disney Plus.
Again, kudos to the writers.
And
They've got and Kevin Feige. They've got the topmost team working on these because it's amazing how much they're able to do and pull off with this.
It's a well-oiled machine now. It really is.
Yeah. This goes back to Kevin Feige was talking about. We should have talked about this on Tagline last night, but talking about how when actors are signing up to be in an MCU movie, they no longer sign up with contracts. They are only looking for actors who actively want to be in the MCU, who are dedicated enough to play this character that when this character shows up in a future movie, you will be there to play this character again.
Yep.
That is a huge, like, I don't know if anyone understands like exactly how Hollywood and contracts work. That is a huge amount of leverage that the MCU has for actors. It is gorgeous that we're at that point now.
You look at how much money these movies make and how much money these actors probably get on the back end from all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at this in a world of acting where, you know, do you work next year? Maybe. If your agent is good and is getting you the spots or your auditions are great, you're actually actively going out and searching for jobs. Sure, you might do well this next year.
Or play a role in the MCU and get job security.
Exactly. You play a role in the MCU, you get job security now for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Hard to pass up.
The last thing I want to talk about before we close this episode, when we're theorizing what could potentially happen, this episode ended with a post-credits stamp saying that Loki, like, I love this. This was like the most like fourth wall breaking ever, but it was a stamp saying that Loki will return in season 2. We haven't gotten any kind of notification if there was going to be a season 2 of WandaVision or a season 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is the first Disney Marvel show. We know there's going to be a season 2.
Yep.
What do y'all think is going to happen?
No clue.
I think it really depends on when it is. Because, like, I've talked to other people and they're kind of theorizing it will be sometime like before Quantumania.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a good sweet spot for it. So, like, there's already been some events we've had happen leading up to that. And if so, it's going to be setting up that movie. We'll have to see. Like, it's going to probably set up Kang the Conqueror. And I don't know the specifics, but I think that's where it's going to be. I guess that's my only prediction. I think that's when it's going to be released. Is right there.
I think our earliest time seeing a season 2, it depends on if they've secretly already been filming some of it or if they're about to start filming. The earliest we might see it is probably like late summer next year. We're definitely going to see it after Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. Because that I think comes out like in February. So it's not going to happen before then, obviously. But I definitely do think that we get it before Quantumania, and it's going to be the piece that sets up Quantumania a little bit better.
Yeah.
Which that's like 2023. So
yeah, I love that by the time a second season comes out, we will, even if you're only watching the movies, you are going to be very well versed in the multiverse. Obviously, Doctor Strange is going to hit that. This whole thing, if y'all been following movie news about this next Spider-Man movie, No Way Out. Of course, there was the rumor. Yeah, No Way Home, No Way Out. That's a completely different movie. No Way Home. That's the key word in these movies. Why did I forget the home?
One word you can predict.
The hell. Yeah,
Spider-Man
I know.
House.
It's late. I'm tired, y'all. But we've heard the rumors that this is going to involve even the Spider-Man of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And this has all been a rumor. This is happening. We will see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in that Spider-Man movie. Without a doubt, this whole the way that Phase 4 of the MCU is going right now, we're at least knee deep into the multiverse possibility. Yes, we're going to see the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man in the MCU. Everything that's been rumored is going to happen, pretty much.
And if you're not certain about that, ask Alfred Molina.
Absolutely. It's going to happen. I have no doubt now. Again, like you were alluding to earlier, I'm almost certain we're going to see the trailer for the Spider-Man movie drop like any day now. I joked before, it's going to be like any second. It's about to happen. So hoping to crank out like a trailer reaction to that when that drops, because that's going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, I feel like that's about it. Season 2, I'm curious as to where it could go, because I have a lot of questions left over. Where did Renslayer go? What exactly in the timeline are we at with this particular Loki that's now meeting this particular Mobius? Where are we at? What's going to happen with this Loki? Because this isn't even the Loki that we grew up and loved. This is a variant Loki who's now on some weird tangent. And did he actually learn a lesson? Or is he just placating this series and learning a lesson for right now, but still will go back to wicked ways?
And the most important question of all, when the hell is Mobius going to get to ride a friggin' jet ski?
That is the question.
Absolutely. Because I want to see that. Like, I'm actually kind of upset we didn't get that as like the post credits. Yeah, I feel like that should have been the post credits of Mobius on a jet ski going, "See y'all next year, season 2." Like, that would have been the funniest thing that we got, but we didn't get that. No, instead we got a rubber stamp and we got a.
Gosh.
This is backfiring more on Kelsey than it is probably the people in our chat.
It's entertaining no matter what.
I know. Yeah. I was warned, and it didn't help.
Okay, so this has been a bit longer than normal episode, which makes it. I love the fact that like right now the StreamYard timers tell me that this has been a little over an hour and 18 minutes long that we've been doing this. This episode was only 46 minutes long. 43, actually more like 35 if you include the foreign credits. Yeah. Those things are long. But there was so much to dive in, and this episode clearly plays into the comic book geek in all of us comic book geeks. Marvel, again, has done a phenomenal job of placating to both us comic book nerds and to people who they don't know the source material that much, which is where the three of us have come into play for this show. So that's going to do it for this Loki review. Any of y'all watching live in the chat, y'all have any other questions, any other thoughts, feelings, opinions? Drop those in there so we can get to those questions real quick. Hey. Kelsey, for the last time in this Loki episode, or Loki breakdown.
Until season 2.
Yeah, I fully expect to see you back here for season 2.
I was gonna say when I was doing my things like, and hopefully I'll be here for season 2.
Put her on the spot. Put her on the spot. She's live. She can't say no.
I can't say no. No, I'd be honored. to be here.
I'm gonna like write that in the calendar right now. We got that sworn commitment for a year later.
I don't even know when the show's going to be, but whatever.
2023. Oh, here I am.
Anyways, Kelsey, plug away.
All right. You can find me at KelseyKins90 on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me here in a year or 2 years, who knows when, reviewing season 2. Tomorrow, I will be on Jesse Swift's channel for Flick and Reel doing a review of Loki for our finale there. And then Call to Action podcast.
Not tired of talking about Loki yet.
Nope. Not yet. I have one more in me for a while, and then I'll need a break for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Call to Action podcast, talking about all things Schmodown. Check us out there. It's fun over there. And yeah, find me.
Yeah.
Chris, what would you like to plug, sir?
I would like to plug.
You would like to plug Miss Minutes? That's weird.
Hey y'all. Hey y'all.
She's an inanimate object. Well, she's an animate object, but she's still a clock, yo. I mean, I'm just saying.
I will say once again, we don't deserve Tara Strong. No, we got a lot of stuff going on the Cinefacts channel. We are actually going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus here right off the back of this one. Next couple weeks, save maybe a Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, or I'm still going to be keeping up with the Bad Batch breakdowns with Adam Witt over the next few weeks. Outside of those two things,
work. I can't show up. I'm not feeling well. Why? Because there's a Spider-Man trailer I got to react to.
Exactly. But we will be back after that hiatus. We will be coming back stronger than ever. And in order to come back stronger than ever, we need support from everybody who loves watching us and enjoys the content we produce. Best way to do that, guys, is over on that Patreon link, patreon.com/Cinefanatics. We are doing all sorts of stuff there in the future. We've got the Discord, just $1 to join the Discord, and we talk about movies. We talk about Loki over there. We talk about all sorts of stuff. We got watch-alongs coming up, one of which is this week, actually. One of our last watch-alongs till whenever, I guess next month, honestly. Let's be honest about that. We're doing Space Jam watch-along this week. That is going to be on Thursday, I believe.
Tomorrow night.
And we're going to be watching the original Space Jam, getting psyched up and ready to go for the new legacy, the one that's sure to be really good as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Join us on the Patreon at the Dude tier to join in that watch along there. But also we're doing all sorts of things. The two of us are part of the Movie Trivia Schmodown's First Class League. And so we do movie trivia nights on our Patreon where you can come help us study and get prepped for any matches we might have coming up. So that's all the fun stuff happening on Patreon. If you want to join any tier that you feel comfortable in joining at, we're doing all sorts of fun stuff over there. And we really, really do appreciate the support.
And where can we find you personally?
Oh, me personally. You can find me all across the Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Chris Adams MLP. Also, if you want to head over to twitch.tv/Chris Adams MLP, you can find me over there doing some game streams every now and then as well. A lot of fun. Appreciate a follow.
Yep. As for me, you can find me at Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Robert Adams MLP. I'm closing in on the last 25 movies I need to watch before I hit 2,000 movies watched on Letterboxd. Come follow me on Letterboxd. Give me on Twitter like some recommendation of some major movie that I should have seen by now, but I sadly haven't. Anyways, follow me there. Yeah. Any other questions? Doesn't look like we got anything else from the chat, so we're gonna go ahead and end this. Guys, this has been a phenomenal series. I like this. Like I don't know. I kind of like WandaVision a little bit better just because only because it started off with that gimmick and it played so well. But absolutely, my heart still belongs to Loki. I've actually spent the money on the Hot Toys figure. I've owned the first appearance of Loki, the comic book before, Journey into Mystery 85. I have owned that comic book. So I love Loki a lot more than, say, like Wanda or Vision. I've never owned their first appearance. I might have actually owned the first appearance of Wanda at one point. Anyways, I love this. It's been a phenomenal show. I love how it's leading into MCU.
I will say this for myself.
Yeah.
I think Loki does edge out the other two for sure. Falcon and Winter Soldier is great. There's a lot of really cool stuff and good stuff that they did with that show. WandaVision was fantastic, but as far as a show that sticks the landing and has incredibly huge ramifications for the future of the MCU, I think Loki is the tops of the shows so far.
Yeah.
And we know Kelsey thinks the same.
So we will see all of y'all back for Loki season 2 breakdown and reviews. It's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait. It's going to be at least a year. Be patient, my beating heart, and Kelsey's beating heart as well. More so hers. Like, just keep a watchful eye on her heart.
Yeah, make sure I'm okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, because you never know when Kelsey's heart is.
Well done, sir. Very well done. Anyways, that's going to do it for the Loki series season 1 breakdown and review. It's been a lot of fun to do this. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for being here. My brother, Kelsey, I guess myself, I'm a part of this, whatever. It's Lola. Thank you, Lola, for being here. You are the anchor that holds the show together, just to let you know. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm going to lick my butt. Anyways, those of y'all watching, thank y'all for being here in the chat. Thank y'all for watching this. If you're watching this on a replay, let us know down below your thoughts, feelings, and opinions. How anxious are you to see us do a breakdown of season 2? Let us know down in the chat. Again, make sure you share this with friends and family. Everyone else you know who enjoyed Loki, share this with them. Thank you, Catatop, for that. And also subscribe to the Cinefanatics. You can hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the bell. You will be notified, hopefully, if YouTube is working right, as to when we go live. Anyways, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank y'all for watching. We appreciate y'all being here. Good night. Later.
Bye.